Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for the Week 9.
Here we are.
Week 9 edition of Inside the Zone. The regular season wraps up this coming Friday. We're going to be talking about that. Also talking about the playoffs as Sectional Draw came out on Sunday, courtesy of the IHSAA. But let's chat about Week 9 first. A lot of championships were decided or de facto decided last Friday. As far as the NECC big and small division goes, and then, Adams Central's probably going to win the ACAC outright. Same thing for Leo in the Northeast State, you would predict. But there is one huge game on the schedule this Friday in Northeast Indiana. Snyder at Bishop Luers. How do you see this one playing out? Because both teams are really playing good football at this point of the year.
Absolutely. Snyder, who would have thought after the first couple games, needing that last-second field goal literally to beat Northside Week 1 and come back, lose a close one to Carroll in Week 2. They've won out since. They've been very impressive. Not overwhelmingly dominant like we have seen, and maybe there's less flash than what we've seen with Bishop Luers, but they've handled their business. The defense has come into its own. The running game is absolutely powerful, and they've mixed in some pass when they needed to. And here they are, Snyder Panthers, after a year where everybody asked what was wrong with Snyder. Here they are, Week 9. They can win an SIC championship.
What do you think is going to be the biggest key in this game? Because, we talk about the size year in and year out of the Snyder line. That is certainly the case with DJ Moore and the guys that they've got this year. And then, with Bishop Luers, it's just playmakers all across the field. It kind of seemed like quietly Carson Clark became the SAC's all-time pass leader in passing yards last week. And it's like normally when that happens, it's a big
to-do, right?
It's a big to-do, but maybe just having the rain and the way that it all played out was a factor in that. How do you see this one playing out in terms of what are the key factors in this matchup?
Well, when you look at the matchup with the Battle of the Bishops a couple weeks ago, Bishop DeWanger was really able to mix up their coverages and give Carson Clark different looks. They got some pressure on him, and it was the most uncomfortable I'd seen Carson Clark all season. Now, he still made plays, and Bishop Luers was able to win that game by 3, but maybe that showed another team just how to mix things up defensively, particularly that front that's more powerful for Snyder than it is at Bishop DeWanger. I see that as being the key is throw the kitchen sink, so to speak, if you're the Snyder defense, give them innumerable looks to have to deal with. Carson Clark, that front line, really try to, keep them on their toes. And it felt like Carson Clark was never really comfortable in that game with Bishop DeWanger. Still made the plays he needed to, but I feel like confusing him at the line of scrimmaging, giving him different looks, give him something to think about, that could be the key.
And we've talked a lot about the Luers offense this season. It's really the focal point when you start thinking about Sir Hale and Carson Clark and Brody Glenn and all those guys. But defensively, they've been just as solid. But this will be one of, if not the most physical teams that they will play. Tyrese Brown is a heck of a physical back. Again, the offensive line for Snyder, physical. Their tight end, Warbin, he's physical as well. Juarez can make some big plays, as we saw last week. How do you see the Bishop Luers defense faring against this Snyder offense that's really starting to kind of find its way, and it has done that over the last couple of weeks?
Well, it begins in the trenches, and I think Bishop DeWanger, going back to that game, was able to move the football. KJ Tipman was able to get in space, and even if it's 4, 5, 6 yards a carry, that's all you really need to keep moving the chains. And Tyrese Brown, he's proven time and time again that he can be that bell cow guy and carry the ball 25, 30 times for you. If Snyder's able to be methodical and move the ball on the ground and keep the football away from Bishop Luers to boot, I think that bodes well for the Panthers. For Bishop Luers, they're not overly big up front, but they're very skilled and talented, and technique is sound. And I think that'll be an interesting battle as we watch maybe the bigger guys of Snyder go up against the smaller, spry guys of Bishop Luers.
Are you surprised that we're here in Week 9 with Bishop Luers playing Snyder for the championship? Because I know you and I both said, at the end of last season, Snyder's going to be in the mix. They might be the team to beat in the SAC, and we knew Luers was going to be good after the run to the state championship game last year. Is this at all surprising? Because the first few weeks in the SAC, we were like, gosh, we don't know what we've got.
Right.
And here we are, maybe the two favorites playing in Week 9 for the championship.
I'm actually, if you would have asked me this question before the season started, I would have been more surprised with Bishop Luers because they have never proven that they could handle the schedule in the SAC after they've added Carroll and Homestead. I still felt like, yes, Bishop Luers is that team to beat in 2A, but it's very difficult for me to see them survive an SAC schedule. And they have. with one game remaining. And you can go back and forth on, Lures is that good, yes, but is the conference as a whole a little bit down? Bishop DeWanger a little bit down, Homestead a little bit down. So, you can go both ways, and either way, it doesn't matter. They're still 8-0 playing for a SAC title. But if you had to ask me this question at the beginning of the year, I'm saying I'm more surprised at Bishop Lures. If you were to ask me 2 weeks into the season about Snyder, yes, I absolutely would be surprised that they're in this position.
Now, Leo is at DeKalb this week. Woodland is at Adams Central. Angola, which clinched the small division last week at Eastside, and then Fairfield clinched the big division of the NECC. When you take a look at specifically Leo and Adams Central and Eastside, of those three teams, which do you think was the most dominant relative to their conference? I mean, because those were teams where there was we saw with the Central Noble loss to Eastside, there was a big gap between teams number 1 and number 2 in those three situations. Who do you think was the most dominant of those three, or was it all just kind of equal across the board?
I'm saying Adams Central.
Yeah.
Nobody could touch Adams Central in the ACAC by a significant amount. You looked at Leo, and East Noble played them tough with that great comeback in the second half.
That's true.
Eastside, Cherubusco gave them a game, that 20-13 game that Eastside was able to hold on and win. So those two teams, Leo and Eastside, had some tests. Nobody sniffed Adams Central in the ACAC. I mean, even throwing Bishop Lures in, Adams Central is the most dominant conference champion this year in the area.
It was funny because I remember talking to Brent Kunkel at Bluffton in the preseason, and he was like, I think Adams Central's the best team. I think they'll probably win the state championship. And I was like, really? And he turned out to be completely right.
Never doubt the Conks, man.
They're ranked third, which I know it's because other teams in front of them haven't lost. But my goodness, if there are two teams better than them in 1A,
no. I mean, Lutheran maybe, and I'm already looking forward to that state championship game. If it's Lutheran, we've seen Lutheran step up. They've beaten a good Cecina team in 2A. They can play up. I think it's going to be a tremendous game. Just play it now.
Speaking of tremendous games that we wish were being played right now, Sectional Draw came out on Sunday, and there are a few premium matchups that we're going to see in the first round. First off, Leo at East Noble. We're talking a rematch. Again, it's in Kendallville, which I'm sure Leo would have liked to not play in Kendallville twice in a season.
Yeah.
But that was an instant classic that you've already alluded to. How interesting is this one going to be? And to you, is that the marquee matchup when you talk about the first round games we're going to see in Week 10? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you could talk Adams Central and Cherubusco, that first round matchup there, but it is all eyes will be on Kendallville with Leo and East Noble. And here we are again. Last year, Leo beat East Noble in the regular season. East Noble comes back, shuts them out in the sectional to win the championship and move on. So here we are again, these two teams facing off. And, has East Noble learned what they need to do differently? They've had some struggles the last couple weeks. After that loss to Leo, they fall at Norwell. Needed to come from behind to beat Columbia City. So where is this team, East Noble? Do they have the mental and physical capacity to come back and play a complete 4 quarters against Leo? Because that's what they're going to need to do. But you can go back and forth and debate, and whether it should be seeded or not seeded. This would be a great championship game, but. Here we are. You got to play them at some point. Why not Week 10?
Well, yeah, and then you take a look at that, but then you look at the Lures East Side bracket, and if everything works out,
perfect.
Yeah, it couldn't be any more perfect. At least if you're Lures and East Side, or just a fan of how teams play out to have great championship games.
Yeah, right.
Adams Central Busco also in the first round. How do you see that one playing out? Because Busco, you look at Adams Central's only loss. It's a 2-point. Came down to a 2-point conversion right at the end against Eastside, and Busco only lost by a touchdown to Eastside. I mean, those, if you're talking about common opponents, it doesn't get a lot closer than those two.
And that's kind of what we have to go with. And then you look at Cherubusco, their style, and they're really tough up front. They're physical, and you would throw in guys like Hunter Bayansky, and Riley Burhoffs was very good. It's a blue-collar type team, and it's exactly what Adams Central is too. So it's kind of strength on strength in this matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if Cherubusco can give Adams Central a game. It's probably the only potential game they'll have in the sectional round, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, if we're going by common opponents, which is really all we really have to go by, you're saying this could be a really competitive football game.
Are you saying it's difficult to predict what 14 to 18-year-old boys will do?
Imagine that.
I know.
Right?
Homestead at Carroll is the other game that really jumped out to me when you took a look at the brackets as they came out. 17-10. I mean, I think that was the regular season score, and I think we all went into that game thinking, "Oh boy, this is going to be a shootout.
Yeah,
this
first
is
to
going to
70,
be
right?
crazy. It's at Carroll's new stadium. Like, oh man, let's get the abacus out because we're going to need it." It was a defense-first game. I was at the whole second half of that one. How do you see this one playing out second time around? Because Carroll just, even since then, they just have not stopped scoring.
Right.
I think Jeff Becker just threw a touchdown.
Yeah, right. The interesting thing with this is, can Homestead figure out some things to work against that Carroll defense? And usually, in the last couple of years, we were talking about that Carroll defense as really being the Achilles heel. But it is absolutely a strength this year for the Chargers. That's what makes them, in my opinion, the favorite in this sectional. They get Homestead at home again, and you feel like maybe you would give the edge, closer to Homestead if that game was across town at a Boyd, but having to go to Carroll again and the way Carroll is playing, can Peyton Slavin in that offense find some opportunities with that Carroll defense? It was tough the first time around. Now they have to do it again. It's going to be a tough challenge, but it should be hopefully a good game. And, maybe we'll have that first to 70 game here this time around.
Yeah, and one of the funny things is they're like lures at Carroll. Is everyone talks about the offense, but the defense deserves some credit. Dylan Bennett, I've seen him a couple of times. I'm not a college football coach, but I'm like, God, this guy passed the eye test. Does he not?
He is humongous as a junior.
And
you
he
would
can
think
run.
he's a college junior with the body type. He has 4 turnovers on the season and has scored 4 touchdowns, 3 pick sixes, and that fumble on the kickoff last week to score.
I saw him take back a pick against Northside, and I was like, this guy's big and
Big
can
dude.
move. I like him. I like him a lot.
Absolutely.
What are you most looking forward to here about Week 9? Obviously, we got the premium matchup in the SAC, and then just a lot of teams, I think, trying to get something right or get something tweaked before the postseason begins.
It begins and ends for me at Lewis Field. I mean, can we see Bishop Lewis win their first SAC championship outright since 2011, first ever since 2014?
That was a three-way, baby.
Yeah,
back
it was.
In the day.
And there's still an opportunity for a three-way this year, potentially, if things align. So Carroll's still in the mix. They need Snyder to win, and they need to beat Wayne, and we could have a three-way. So, all eyes on that one. Who gets the victory bell? And come Saturday morning, we will be seeing pictures on social media. Will that thing be in Lures colors? Will it be red and black? Will it be somebody else? We'll see.
What happens if you split it three-way? How do you do that, like colors-wise and sharing-wise?
See, I'm trying to remember that year where it was the three-way, and I've heard where the team that has not had it the longest gets it.
Okay.
Or they all share it. Each 3 weeks, everybody gets it. So if it is the team that hasn't gotten it the longest, it will be Carroll because they've never had it.
Oh. That is
the
a good point.
Chargers would get the bell, or they just could have everybody gets it for 3 weeks, which
or they just cut it in three.
Yeah,
they
cut
weld
it in 3 ways.
They get a welder, cut it down,
Cut it.
and just a big piece of metal.
And for that thing to be painted 3 years or 3 times in a year would just be crazy. Because I think it was stripped maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but other than that, they're just covering paint with new paint. It's very crazy.
Well, we'll have to see how it all shakes out.
Yes.
And that will be decided at Lures Field on Friday night. But for Week 9, he's Justin, I'm Glenn, and we'll talk football and Inside the Zone next Monday.